I'm curious to see the house that I grew up in. I haven't seen it in so very long.
Yeah.
And I figure since we're out here, we might as well cruise past it. This is the house we had before my dad moved the family to Nashville briefly.
Were you born here?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was born at Mission Hill Hospital
Okay.
in Shawnee. You know, went to the same school, K through 12, with the exception of that brief time in Tennessee. Okay, and we want to turn left right here.
You got
This
it.
is Stevens. This all looks very different to me.
Yeah? Smaller?
Yes, yes. I ran the wheels off of a bicycle coming down this hill when I was a kid. And, and they've got blacktop on it now. This was all dirt roads when I was a kid.
Well, we've gotten fancy here in Polk County.
Oh my gosh, it has been a while. Okay, it's just up here. This is incredible. This all looks so different. All right, it was this house right here. Golly, look at that.
This one with the big
Yeah.
window?
Yes, that's it. Holy cow. That is unbelievable. That is amazing. It looks great. I remember my dad building that shop.
Really?
Yeah. And he would have his band rehearsals in that shop there. And I was just a kid.
So you lived here from when to when at your age?
Probably 5, 6 till the time, I guess probably teenage years. This creek, man, I followed this thing for miles. Wow, what a lot of memories. The road we lived on wasn't paved. The red dirt I used to hate, and I couldn't wait to leave the dust behind.
Small towns in Oklahoma, separated by rivers and connected by fields and railroad tracks, have a particular kind of magic in their weaving. Sister communities share their wins and their losses together, even as they rival over high school football. Neighboring farmers are just unrelated cousins, and hard seasons that pummel the state end up hurting everybody's crops. We all feel it the same. We cross over those invisible lines for a good chicken fried steak or to help each other up with potluck dishes for our funerals. But when one person breaks through to something that seems extraordinary, it helps all of us in the area see those stars a little clearer. Even though he comes from Bethel and I grew up in Dale a few miles over. That's what Wade Hayes was.
Neon lights draw me like a lonesome flame. Mama raised me right, that just leaves me plain. When I get a little sideways on honky-tonk tear, I'm old enough to know better, but I'm still too young to care.
He's got a few years on me, but I can remember as a kid when that guy from Bethel made it to the big time with his album Old Enough to Know Better. And I remember that it gave me hope. Some small town guy hits Nashville with his name spelled out in lights. Kind of gets you thinking that if some 3A school Church of Christ kid can do it, then the sky's the limit. In small towns, everybody knows you when you make it, or everybody knows somebody who did. Once he got where he was going, his voice clear and true in that pickup truck radio, everybody in Bethel walked a little taller, I figure.
I tell everybody, and I mean this in the most positive way possible, Bethel, Oklahoma is a great place to be from.
Yeah.
the strong sense of community and good people. And of course went to church at the Lakeview Church of Christ, and it was a great foundation when it was time for me to be out there in this big crazy world. I had a strong sense of who I was and what I believed in my heart and what I knew to be right and wrong. And I think a lot of that came from this very place that I grew up. I think a lot of people, there were a lot of good kids in my class that grew up to do some great things.
So how often are you able to make it back?
Probably average coming back 2 times a year. And I'm usually, wow, that's interesting. That's my dad's old car.
That was?
Yeah, I guess the guy just bought it. It's been of course I lost my dad here recently, and they were cleaning out some of his stuff, and my brother-in-law, I guess, just sold it. So that's weird that we would drive by at this exact time and see that. Goodness.
I'm sorry about your dad.
Yeah, that was a tough loss. I know everybody has to go through it, but it was extremely difficult at the time. Especially this year, not only have we had all of this COVID, my wife has lost her dad and her grandmother, and I lost my dad and my dog, Jack. You know, the funerals, we haven't even gotten to have funerals.
Right.
No saying goodbye properly. You know, it's been awful, unbelievable. So.
No closure, you know.
Yeah, it's tough to think about all of it too intensely and really focus on it and stay there. If you dwell, you know, it starts getting difficult and the tears start coming. So it's hard to, you know, just kind of keep it. You got to keep it at a distance. At least for right now, it's still too new. It's difficult. It's something everybody has to go through, but it sure doesn't make it any easier.
Now you mentioned obviously. Talking earlier about your dad, he played a tremendous role as far as you being a musician, a singer-songwriter.
Yeah, my dad had a huge influence on my life, I guess, as most dads do, but I grew up playing guitar for him, playing lead guitar for him, and I started playing regularly with him at a place that I would like to go by later on. Okay. If it's okay with you, but there was a place called Charlie's Palace. They're on 177. I was playing there 4 nights a week. I started when I was 14 years old.
They let you in there?
Yeah, you know, I had to be accompanied by an adult, of course. And when there were nights that my dad wasn't there, and we had a legal document signed that said Charlie Cox and his wife Joanne were my legal guardians when my dad wasn't there, so I could play when dad wasn't there. So I played 4 nights a week there all through high school.
Well, let me back you up a little bit, because if you're already gigging at 14,
yeah.
I mean, when did you start? What started you?
It's funny what made me decide that I had to do this. And you know, you look back on it and realize you don't really choose music. When you realize that it affects you as deeply as it does me and other people that do this for a living, you realize you didn't choose it. It chose you. And it's for better or for worse, it's what you do. It's what you are.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I mean, so it chose you. When did it choose you? When did you find it? When did it find you, I should say?
So I always knew that I liked music and understood it. And I was at church camp, and I was about 11 years old.
But this is Church of Christ church camp. They're letting you have instruments there?
There was a guy there with a guitar, oddly enough.
All right, snuck it in.
You figured out where this story is going, no doubt. But I saw this guy underneath a tree. He was older than me, of course, playing a guitar, and he was surrounded by girls.
Oh.
And I thought, I'm gonna learn to play the guitar.
Yeah.
That was it.
That was it?
That was it. That was the moment.
That's when it found you.
Yeah.
When the weekend's gone, I won't have time to spare. I'm old enough to know better, but I'm still too young to care. Monday morning, I wake up with a hammer in my hand. Boss man yelling something at
despite the fact that you're from Bethel. I'm very happy to be talking to you.
It was my pleasure.
Tell me about your story here on the stage.
It's interesting to be in this gym, and the minute that we walked in, these memories started flooding back. This gym up on this stage over here was one of the first, if not the first, gigs I ever had. My dad's band was playing here, and I was probably 12 years old, and he let me sing a song with them. And I remember being so nervous, just nearly vomiting, nauseous, and nervous. And somehow made it through it and had the bug at that point. I remember that very, very well. And made it through it, and it's a precious memory now.
Do you remember what song it was?
I have no idea. No, I do remember being a kid, and you know, I was really, really into hardcore country.
Okay.
I mean, that's all that mattered to me at the time. And all of this drinking and cheating and leaving songs, I could not understand why my dad would not let me sing these songs, but that's what I was into. I don't even know why, because half the time I had no idea what they were even talking about, but I just loved them. I'm sure it was not one of those songs that I did, but the second thing that's really, really coming to mind is on that stage as well, which involved one of my first gigs with my first little band I had, and we were opening for the school play.
Okay.
And one of the teachers had asked me to hang a mic up above where the actors were in the play. So I climbed a ladder and got up in the rafters over there. And it was probably 15, 20 feet to the stage, and I somehow lost my footing and fell through the suspended ceiling. And I don't know how I lived through it. Because I remember waking up in a cloud of smoke, and there's the ceiling tiles laying on me, and people standing and kneeling around me trying to see if I'm dead or not.
I mean, was the place full at the time?
No, there were quite a few people in here. I think it was a recess or something. Uh-huh. And it was extremely embarrassing and painful. So, but I brushed myself off and made it through the gig. The show had to go on, man. It had to go on. So,
Wade Hayes is exactly who you'd want him to be. He's patient and humble, easygoing through conversation, real salt of the earth. He might have left here a long time ago, but he didn't seem to lose who he was when he got there on those bigger stages. He dropped out of college in '91 to chase down that country music dream, and he signed with Columbia Records in '94. It's been going ever since. He's got stories from the road and perspective from the journey and hard-earned advice, the best kind. He's good-humored, and driving down the old roads of his hometown or sitting with him in the old Bethel gym revealed that deep-rooted affection he's still got for this place. We parked at the school, drove around some back roads in Bethel and Shawnee, hit some of the old haunts. One of the old bars off of 177 he used to gig at, fundamental to those hours of becoming who he is. It's a daycare now. Another one of the bars burned down a few years back. We walked around that empty lot, looked for a couple of ghosts. The place is gone, but the stories are still there.
So I would get done with Charlie's Palace, and I would come out when I was 18. You could get in with a legal guardian to Cowtown. So they would leave a note at the door that they would be my guardian, and I would come out and catch their last set. Jamie Richard and his band. I was trying to get a gig playing guitar for Jamie, and I would go out and watch them and work on their set and stuff, and they would let me set in their last set, and I loved it. Jamie was actually instrumental in me getting to Nashville. He had already moved to Nashville and had a few things going on, and he had this showcase come up, and he asked me if I wanted to come out to Nashville and play guitar for him on the showcase, because I knew all of his stuff and borrowed a buddy's car, and a guy named Kenny Childers, and I borrowed his car and drove to Nashville and did this showcase with Jamie, and some people in the industry noticed me on stage. One of them introduced me to what would become the guy who
really essentially got everything started for me, a guy named Chick Raines. He wanted to meet me and see if we could write. So we did. Right off the bat, Chick and I wrote Old Enough to Know Better and I'm Still Dancing With You, I mean, immediately. And those were both #1 songs.
So you didn't have those songs already in your pocket when you moved out there?
I'm Still Dancing With You, I had most of it written. And I had actually started writing that on a friend of mine's couch after I got done playing one night out here. I think it was Cowtown.
And so you were still living in, I mean, you went straight from Bethel. Did you go straight from Bethel to Nashville?
No, I had gone through, I'd gone through about 4 years of college, and I'd changed colleges 2 or 3 times trying to figure out what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I knew none of it was for me, none of it was. And I kept struggling and trying to find my way. I heard Ricky Skaggs one night on the CMA Awards, say something like, all you young artists out there that are struggling, you need to stick with it because this is what you're called to do. I felt like he was speaking directly to me, and I started making plans immediately to move to Nashville. Your hometown of Dale, and we're going through Tecumseh now.
Right.
And my little town of Bethel are pretty obscure places in the grand scheme of things. Maybe some young person out there who sees this or hears this can understand that you can be from a very, very small town like this and reach for a star and get it.
Go live your life. Go chase your dreams.
Now, we talked a lot about the influence and the impact your dad has had on you.
Yes.
So I want to ask you, what is something that your dad taught you that Nashville didn't?
Yeah.
And then what is something that Nashville taught you that the old man didn't?
The second part of that question is much easier to answer. What Nashville taught me that my dad didn't was songwriting is extremely important. That's where it's at, period. That's, reading lots and lots of books, listening to lots and lots of music, and writing songs. That's where it's at, period. That's how you get started.
Yeah.
But what my dad taught me that Nashville didn't was, and this is probably more of a personal thing, but hard work is something that I have to do. My dad was a home builder, a contractor. I grew up building houses with him. I still do that as a hobby. I still mess with houses. I love real estate. I love it. That is something I have to do to keep my noggin cleared out. Because songwriting, though it's very fulfilling when you get a song done and you know you hooked one, that is a feeling like no other, but it is so intangible. It is not a physical thing.
Right.
Whereas you start a project, you see it transforming and you see it completed. A physical project that is tangible is very fulfilling, and that's something that I need, and that hard work helps me deal with everything else.
Take it from someone who knows.
Wade has the toughness and vulnerability of a man who has suffered his share of pain and loss. His terrifying battles with stage 4 cancer, the passing of his father. But emerged on the other side of that darkness is stronger, faith renewed, and eyes opened. That strength and the peace he radiates is inspiring. He's a private man. That reserve feels more like small-town humility than some kind of guarded celebrity, though. Listen to him talk about his faith, his wife, his family, the stray dog he befriended during a hard time. And he radiates the kind of gratitude and warmth that makes you want to stop for a second, maybe look around.
I was coming home in the middle of the night. I was about probably 50 miles or so from home. I pulled into a filling station to get gas, and this dog jumped up in the truck and sat down in the front seat and looked over like, okay, I'm ready. And he literally had a pizza crust hanging out of his mouth. And the people at the station said he'd been there for days, eating out of trash cans, and he was in rough shape. But I couldn't say no to him. The dog, there's a line in the song that says he smiles, but he did on command, and it was the funniest thing. And I took that dog home, and he was the best dog I've ever had. I had him for about 10 years. And he was with me through a lot of tough stuff. It was just he and I at the house when I was going through the whole cancer thing, and I believe that dog was instrumental in me recovering as quickly as I did. We would walk at least 2 miles a day, every day. Those guys, you know, just because you're sick doesn't mean they don't need you anymore. So having that responsibility really, really did help. And he was a great dog, a great friend, and I've missed him every day still today. But the song was about him. I started writing it when I noticed something was wrong with him. The first time I noticed something was wrong with him. And at that moment, I realized that our time together wasn't infinite. It really hit me hard, just that realization that he wouldn't always be there. And the song started falling out, and I'm very, very proud of it. I worked hard on that song. And it was a good song for a good dog. It has been an incredible ride. All of it has. And the last, I guess, almost 10 years now, 9 years, has been about the cancer journey. And I'm normally a very, very private person and quiet person, especially about personal things. But this, you know, making it through that when I shouldn't have, I feel like this is part of the gig now and part of my responsibility to talk about it, because I've met so many incredible people through this journey that are going through some awful things. And they want to know how I made it and how I made it through it. It's very difficult to say because there's not one specific thing, but I do know that I'm incredibly fortunate. You know, statistically, I should not be here. I was stage 4, and I had it really, really bad, really bad. In fact, when they presented my case at Vanderbilt Hospital in Nashville, they didn't even want to touch it. I had cancer that bad that they just wanted to keep me comfortable. And then there was an oncologist that saw a way, and he wanted to try and fight it. And so he talked them into the surgery. I went through countless procedures since then and 2 different rounds of chemotherapy. But one of the main things that helped me, I want to be sure and mention, because it was a game changer for me. I met a man when I was in the middle of the fight that had been diagnosed similar to me. He was stage 4 as well, and he had made it through. When I met him, he was cancer-free. And the moment that I found out that it could be done, it was one word that was added to the equation that was not there before, and that word was hope. And when you're in the middle of it, you're looking for anything. You're looking for anything. You're looking for help. You're fragile. You're looking for anything that could help. And that one meeting with that guy changed everything for me. And I want people to know that I'm extremely, extremely fortunate to be here, because it is not common, but it can be done. And for anybody out there who's fighting right now, I want them to know that I have been in their shoes. I thank God, in the name of Jesus, that I made it through. And I spend a lot of time these days talking with people, and I still answer emails and talk to complete strangers a lot. And it's part of the job now. And you mentioned, you know, the subject matter with songwriting, that plays into it as well. It was a big deal, and I'm very thankful to still be alive.
I'm glad you're here, brother.
Thank you.
In his song Is It Already Time, Wade wrote, "'Cause there's so many things I need to do and things I need to say, so many precious moments that I've let get away." The song is about his mortality, his struggle with cancer, his journey through it. The guy who wrote that song was asking questions, but the Wade I interviewed had found his answers. These days he seems to live with gratitude and faith and hope. Hope. Over 25 years later, he's still bringing that to the table.
When I first met him, he was digging through the trash at Hall Light Filling Station. He was looking for some scraps, and he was frail, like he'd been plowed alone. He came to the truck, he jumped right in the front seat. He had a half-eaten pizza crust clamped in his crooked teeth, and he smiled like he was finally home. And he's been with me through hell and back again, and I know it's often said, but he has been my best friend. You call him rescue, but I'm not sure that's true. 'Cause there's times I wonder who's saved too. At first it was trying, 'cause he was still a pup. There's no telling how much furniture and shoes that he chewed up, but it was worth it. When we got through that first year, 'cause for dang every decade he's been the constant in my life, and he helped to pull me through what were my darkest times. And I know I'm sure thankful he was here, and he's been with me through hell and back again. And I know it's often said, but he has been my best friend. You call him rescue, but I'm not sure that's true. 'Cause there's times I wonder who's saved too. All the roads we've ridden, all the miles that we've walked, and everything he's seen and heard, I'm sure glad he can't talk. I just hope and pray that he can stay at least another 10. 'Cause I know I'm nowhere strong enough for life without him. 'Cause he's been with me through hell and back again. And I know it's often said, but that dog, he was my best friend. They call him rescue, but I'm not sure that's true. 'Cause there's times I wonder who's saved too. Oh, Jack, I think I know just who's saved.